Hey guys, tonight we'll begin with something that has no light, just a dark grey, as if the darkness here is made of mud, memory and lament. This is Duat, the ancient Egyptian underworld, where you're not only judged, but you have to swim across a river of blood, repay moral debts, and face a giant serpent that represents chaos. But tonight I'm not taking you to the Pharaoh's palace. There's no Cleopatra, no breezy Nile scene with a beautiful widow quietly washing fabric in the dawn light. Tonight, I'm taking you down below. Not a basement, no map, no Google Translate, just a scale, a heart and a feather. And you have to be lighter than that feather if you want to keep going. To the first night in Duat, where the only light is memory, where you must remember the names of 42 gods just to pass through the first gate, and where you'll discover a truth that you don't need monsters or curses. You are the biggest challenge to yourself. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I'm doing here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from all around the world. So, dim the lights. Turn on a fan, not because it's hot, but because background sound always makes it easier to fall asleep. And let's step into tonight's journey together. A single day in Duat, where no one is calm enough to call it a place of rest. You wake up, not in a bedroom, not on a bed, but on a strange ground, soft like raw meat, cold like unforgiven stone. No blanket, no light, just a dark grey, as if the darkness here is made of mud, memory and lament. You breathe and realize you don't have lungs, just a floating thought in a shape that resembles you. If you had once been recycled into incense smoke, you get up, or more accurately you want to, and then you realize, in Duat you don't use hands or feet, you use intention. Ahead is a river, no name, no waves. It's red, not sunset red, but red like a lake full of blood mixed with fog and unsaid things. No one is standing there, just a boat drifting without a captain, its prow lifting slightly as if asking, "Are you ready?" The problem is, you don't remember when you arrived here. Don't remember where death happened. Don't remember who cried. And you start to worry. Not because you died, but because no one remembers you ever lived. You step onto the boat. It doesn't shake, doesn't creak. It just drifts. A snake appears at the edge of the water. It looks at you, not angry, not threatening, just hungry. In Duat, not everyone gets to pass. Not because they lack magic, but because they lack memory. The boat doesn't take you where you want to go. It takes you where you need to remember. You pass through a stone gate. Etched on it are words you feel you once studied, but now can only make out the first line. If you've come here, you're not ready to leave. The air is cool. There's no wind, just the chill of being seen through. You step in, and you know this is the first place of a journey that no one else can take for you. The boat keeps drifting. It doesn't ask where you're going. It makes no sound except for the noise of the water thinking about itself. On both sides of the shore, you see figures. You can't tell if they are people or souls. Some stand facing the sand walls. Some sit holding their knees but without heads. And one shadow quietly wades through shallow water, searching for something, maybe its name. You try to call them, but your voice doesn't make a sound. It's just a stream of thought bouncing off the air, then falling like dry leaves in an old dream. The boat stops. No dock, no rope, just a black dirt path stretching ahead, like a charcoal carpet leading into a cave. Above the entrance is a symbol you vaguely recognize, the Eye of Horus, but it doesn't look at you. It looks deep inside you, not into your mind, but into your memory. You step off. Your feet don't touch the ground. They touch a layer of fine sand as soft as the soot that once brushed the cloak of death. Inside the cave, it's not fully dark. There is light, but no clear source, like the kind of light from things you never said out loud. You walk past walls covered in drawings, people with raised hands, people kneeling, people being pulled out of themselves, and in the middle is you, not the current you, the you from moments you want to forget, when you lied to make someone feel better, when you walked away instead of apologizing, when you stood still even though your heart knew it was wrong. No one speaks, but Duat hears everything. At the end of the hallway is a statue with no face. It stands twice the height of a man, holding a scale. On one side, a feather of Ma'at light as a promise never fulfilled. The other side is empty. You understand. You must place your heart there. But you didn't bring your heart, because in Duat the heart doesn't sit in your chest. It sits in what you still regret. You touch your chest, and something warm, soft, and heavier than you expected begins to form in your palm. It doesn't beat. It doesn't tremble. It's just very quiet. You walk forward, and you place it on the scale. No one judges you. There is no voice that says approved or denied. There is only silence. But that silence is the truth. You don't know if your heart is heavier or lighter than the feather. You only know you've placed it down. And in Duat, sometimes placing something down is already a kind of victory. You step out of the heart-weighing chamber. No one leads the way, but your feet know the path. Or maybe it's your memories guiding you. The road narrows. The farther you go, the dimmer the light becomes. Not pitch dark, but that kind of faded light, like trying to remember a dream where no one had a face. You enter a room, not wide, not small, no windows, only mirrors, not just one, dozens, hundreds, not hanging, not mounted on walls. They float, silently, suspended like frozen sheets of water reflecting parts of you that you don't recognize. You approach one mirror. Inside it is a version of you younger, brighter, eyes that once held belief. You try to reach out, but the image dissolves. Another mirror appears. It shows you standing in the rain in a suit, ignoring a phone call. Another mirror. You sitting still while someone cried. You pretending to laugh when you actually wanted to disappear. Each mirror is a version you chose not to become, or once were, or forgot. You're not forced to choose. No one demands you make it right. Duat doesn't ask for penance. It just shows you. And then you stop, in front of a mirror with no image. Just a blank silvery grey surface trembling slightly like water held still. You look in and realize this is you now. Not the should have been, not the could have been, just you. Sunken eyes, heavy heart, not perfect, not glowing, just a soul still standing. And suddenly, in that mirror room, you no longer feel ashamed. A door opens, no sound, just this. It understands that you are ready, not to move on, but to accept that you are moving. You step outside. Behind you, the mirrors do not shatter. They remain, waiting for another soul who needs to look at themselves. The room doesn't ask how you feel. No one asks, are you okay? Because here, no word is enough. Only images like memories not yet rinsed clean. Another mirror drifts near. It doesn't reflect you. It shows someone else. You look closely and instantly know. It's someone you hurt, not in an obvious way, but by omission. A message never replied to. An apology you meant to say but waited too long. An eye that once trusted you, then quietly turned away. You can't explain. You can't undo. There is no undo button in duat. Only the acceptance that it happened, and that you let it happen. A smaller mirror floats by. In it, you see yourself on a very specific night. No one knows. No witnesses. Just you curled up in the dark thinking about disappearing just to see if anyone would notice. The mirror doesn't judge. It stays silent with you. And you realize maybe you've never hated anyone as much as yourself in that moment. And strangely, the mirror doesn't fade. It doesn't run from you. It stays, as if to say, I see you. That's enough. I won't vanish. And you don't have to vanish either. To your left, the light begins to dim. Not because it's getting darker, but because you've seen enough. No one survives the mirror room. But some walk out more whole. You're not better, not wiser, just more real. And in duat, that is the rarest thing. On the final wall, you see a sentence etched in a language that needs no translation. You don't need to be right. You just need to be real. You place your hand on the wall. It doesn't open a door. The wall dissolves, as if you just touched an emotion you've never dared to name before. You step out. The mirror room still stands, a place no one wants to return to. But you just walk through it. You keep walking. No one rushes you, but you also can't stop, because ahead, the light begins to blaze. Not a warm light, not the glow of a campfire or sunset, but a streak of light that strikes straight into your spine, sharp, direct, and smelling of burned metal. In front of you stands a gate tall as a god statue made of fire that holds the shape of a doorway. It's not burning, it is fire, moving like living skin, red, yellow, and whispering. A voice rises, not loud, not echoing, just something you hear deep in your chest. What is your name? Not your legal name, not your online nickname, not the childhood name someone used when trying to soothe you. You have to say your true name, the one you forgot after living too many borrowed lives. You open your mouth, but no sound comes out, because in duat names aren't spoken by mouth. Your name must come from the place your heart was once abandoned. You think about the times you bowed your head even when you were right. The times you smiled to calm others though your insides had collapsed. The times you stayed silent not because you lacked words, but because no one would listen. And finally, you place your hand on your chest. A word appears in your mind, not your birth name, but the true name of the feeling you once swallowed. You speak it, and the fire goes still. It doesn't roar, doesn't lash out. It simply splits open gently, as if for the first time in 1,000 years, someone had finally called it by its real name. You walk through, not burned, just warm in a very human way, as if for the first time in your life you were truly living under your own name. You turn back to look at the gate of fire. It no longer has shape, only smoke. You've just passed a test not of intellect but of honesty. Not to the gods, but to yourself. A place where you passed one of the strangest tests, saying your name without pretending. But remember, duat doesn't test you just once. It listens to everything you didn't dare say. You pass through the gate of fire. It doesn't close. There's no explosion, no gust of wind, only silence. After a fear that's finally been named, The sand under your feet becomes finer, hotter. Each step feels like stepping on something you once tried to act like it didn't matter. A polite refusal, a silence when you should have hugged someone. I'm fine, followed by tears that felt like you never learned how to breathe. The sky in Duat has no sun, only a pale light like the blurred memory of childhood. And then you start hearing sounds, not voices, not names being called, but your own voice repeating the phrases you once threw out and thought had disappeared forever. I'm okay. I'm used to it. Just let it go. I'm fine. They echo. Not because someone replayed them, but because in Duat every lie you've ever told yourself is kept. A crack opens beneath your feet. Not deep, but you know it's not ground. It's memory unburied. You look down. In the dim shadow of the sand, you see another version of yourself curled up clutching your chest, as if trying to hold your heart from falling out. You think of walking away, but Duat whispers, you must look. You look, and for the first time, you don't feel ashamed. You see, the child in you who tried to be strong, pretended to be okay, learned not to trouble anyone, until one day even you couldn't hear yourself crying for help. You sit down, say nothing, don't touch them. Just sit beside them in the red-hot earth like an unhealed wound. And in that moment, the crack seals itself. No background music, no miracle. Just something inside you finally witnessed. You stand up. The next gate is open. No need to rush. Duat doesn't chase. It waits for you to understand something. You look back. No more fire. No more cracks. Just a version of you, a little lighter. Through all the simmering memories no one forced you to recall. Yet you remembered anyway. And now you arrive at the Blood River. This is not the horror part. This is the part where your own fears speak to you in someone else's voice. You stand before a river. No name, no shore. Only waves thick and red like regret that never dissolved. No boat, no bridge. Just a lone rock lying there as if it used to be a soul that never crossed. You know you have to swim, because Duat wasn't designed for spectators. You step in. Your feet touch the water and realize this isn't water. It's a kind of a solidified emotion, as if each drop in this river is something someone once swallowed, and now it blows around you. With every stroke you hear a whisper, not from a mouth, from under the water. You're not enough. No one really needs you. They only stayed out of pity. No one will remember you. You try not to listen. You try to look straight ahead. But Duat doesn't need you to believe. It only needs you not to avoid. From beneath the surface, a shape appears. A snake. Not as massive as you'd imagined. Just the size of an embrace. It doesn't hiss. It's not angry. It simply looks at you as if it has known you since before you had a name. And then it whispers, do you remember when you stayed, even though you knew they didn't love you? When you gave up your dream just because someone laughed once? When you said, I'm fine, while you were drowning? You fall silent, not from fear, but because everything it said is true. No wounds, no blood, just a truth so bare it doesn't need proof. The snake moves closer, not to bite, but to wrap around you like a hug from something you've always feared. And it says, you don't have to defeat me. Just stay with me for a moment and see I'm a part of you, but not all of you. You don't struggle. You don't flee. You just breathe for the first time, not to survive, but to be present. The river grows still. The snake disappears. You didn't win, but you're no longer running. You step onto the shore, wet, but light, as if you've washed off something you thought would stick to your skin forever. Ahead, a road opens up, no light, but no longer the dark it used to be. A place where all the things you thought were weakness are brought into the light, not to be punished, but to be held properly. You're standing on the other side. Your body is wet but not cold. You are lighter but not empty. You've just gone through a snake. It didn't bite you. It didn't rip you apart. It simply reminded you that it had always been there. You look back at the blood river. It's no longer bright red. Now it's a muted shade, like the faded memory of a dream you once forgot. You see other souls beginning to swim, each in their own way. Some scream, some stay silent, some try not to look into the water. You want to call them, to say it's okay, it won't eat you. But you know they have to follow their own rhythm of fear. You keep walking. Your feet are no longer muddy, just a little raw, like you've just stepped out of a long fever. Ahead is a slope of stone, not to climb, but to sit, and you see another soul waiting. Not a god, not a monster, just a person. No face, but you know exactly who it is. You sit next to them. No need to say hello, because in Duat the souls you forgot never forgot you. You forgot me, they say, not with blame, just like a soft reminder. Like someone calling your name in a dream, you hear it clearly, but didn't turn in time. You want to say sorry, but your throat is dry, as if every word you once buried has turned to ash. You don't speak. You just place your hand on the ground beside them, and they do something unexpected. They nod. No magic. No reunion. They simply sit with you in silence. And sometimes that's all you ever needed. You stand up. Not because you have to leave, but because you know that person will still be here. Not waiting for you to make amends. Just waiting to be remembered as someone who truly existed. The path ahead splits in two. No signs, no spiritual GPS, only intuition. You inhale a full breath for the first time and follow the direction, where breathing can still be heard. Not your breath, but someone else is just as tired as you who arrived before you and is still waiting on the other side of the next door. You've crossed the blood river and listened to the snake whisper the very things you feared the most. Now you enter a place with no more monsters, no more fire, only things you thought had vanished forever, and one very small question. Do you still remember who once loved you? When you had forgotten yourself, you step into a room. No door, no lights, only a faint glow, like candlelight lit by a very distant memory. Each candle in the room is a face, not sharply defined, but warm. You walk slowly down the hallway. Each step brings up an image. Someone who once held your hand tightly in a hospital. A message that once made you smile when you thought no one remembered you. A glance, a song, a hug that was never quite on time, but still enough to hold you up. No one calls to you. No one blames you for forgetting them. They just stay, quiet, gentle, as if saying we're still here, even if you've gone far from yourself. You reach the center of the room. There's a chair, not royal, not ceremonial, just a place for you to sit and breathe. You sit, and for the first time in Duat you hear again the words that once saved you. Though you don't remember ever hearing them, you don't always have to be strong. I'm proud of you, even if you did nothing at all. I know you're holding it all together. It's okay. That day, I saw you hurting, but I didn't ask. And now I'm sorry. You don't cry. You don't need to. Because Duat doesn't want tears. It wants recognition. A candle goes out, then another. Not because you forgot them, but because their role here is complete. They don't disappear. They simply don't need to appear anymore, because you've remembered the most important thing you were once loved. And even if you felt unworthy, even if you hurt someone, even if you once forgot your own name, they loved you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were you. You stand. At the end of the room is a door, not locked, not sealed, just slightly open, like it's saying, if you're ready, keep going. But don't forget we were once here. You place your hand on the door. You don't open it. You just touch. And the door dissolves, like mist, like memory, like a hug that never really ended. You step into the darkness unafraid, because for the first time on this journey, you walk forward, accompanied by all the things that once held you up when you didn't want to stand. You're still sitting there in the room where the light doesn't come from the ceiling, but from every memory that once warmed your hand on the hardest nights. Another candle flares gently, and in its flicker you see someone you once called your best friend. Once. Until one day you stayed silent too long, and they learned how to stop asking. I'm not mad at you, the light says without a voice. I'm just sad you thought I wouldn't understand. You bow your head, not to apologize, but to admit you once thought no one would stay. If they saw the part of you that was weak, you were wrong. But Duat doesn't shout, told you so. It simply keeps the room quiet so you have time to embrace the things you never got to hold one last time. Another glow flickers. No face, just the hand of someone whose name you don't remember. Someone who once pulled over and asked you, are you okay? A random act, kind, gone forever from your life. You touch that light. It doesn't vanish. It just trembles as if saying, you were seen, even once. And that was enough. The room begins to feel warm, not from fire, not from your body, but from the feeling that you're no longer alone inside your own memories. You notice small things. A teacher who let you sleep in class without waking you. A good night message from someone you never replied to. A mother's hug when you were pretending to be fine. None of them asked you to remember, but you did. And that's all Duat ever wanted. You stand. The candles don't go out. They stay to light the way for someone who comes after you. And you leave that room not carrying anyone, only carrying the truth. You weren't as alone as you once believed. In front of you is a path paved with not stone, not sand, but all the things you once received and never knew how to say thank you for. You walk onto it. Each step feels light, as if you are being embraced bit by bit, memory by memory. You've passed through fire, through rivers, through mirrors, through all the whispers no one ever said out loud to you. And now, you arrive at the place you thought was judgment, but it turns out it's where you ask yourself the hardest question. If you've forgiven those who once hurt you, why haven't you ever done that for yourself? You walk into a wide space, no ceiling, no walls, just a pale grey sky, like the voice of someone who once loved you but spoke by walking away. In the center is a stone table. No sword lies on it, no papers, no scale, only a chair, meant for you. You sit. No one sits across from you. No one asks, what did you do? Duat doesn't need to ask, because you have always known. The wind begins to blow, not cold, but carrying the scent of memories you once shoved under a rug. That one slip you never told anyone about. The person you couldn't save. The time you let go of something. Just because you thought you didn't deserve it. The wind brushes across the table, and each time an image appears on its surface. You age 16, crying in the bathroom. You age 22, rereading a message, never sending it. You age 30, pretending to be strong at a funeral, but afterward not remembering who hugged you. You're not being accused. There is no gavel. No God rises to declare you were wrong. Only silence. And in that silence a voice rises. Not loud, not from outside, but from inside your chest. If you could forgive the one who made you cry, can you forgive yourself for not being strong enough? You're silent, and then you nod. No speech, no tears, just a deep enough nod for Duat to believe that you've just saved yourself. No one applauds, no door flies open, no beam of light from heaven, only a strange feeling that for the first time in your life you're not standing in the place of the accused. You're sitting beside yourself, not to ask, not to blame, just to say, I know you tried. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. You leave the chair. No one stops you. No one escorts you. Because in Duat, the real trial doesn't need rules. Only enough honesty to look back at yourself without hate. A place where you're no longer arguing with the world, just finally facing the one thing you've always delayed. Telling yourself you don't have to pay for it forever. You leave the stone chair. You don't feel relieved. Don't feel light. You just feel quiet inside yourself. Like a machine that's been running non-stop for 10 years. Finally gets turned off. Not to die, but to rest. You walk along the edge of that misty space and realize no one ever stood there to judge you. No moral scorecard. No list of wrongdoings read aloud like an indictment. No council of white-robed stone-faced beings. Just a place to pause and look back. At the far end of the room, a small object sits on a flat stone. Not a cross, not a scorecard, not a magic wand. Just a small round mirror slightly cracked along the edge. You lean in, and for the first time since this journey began, you see your face clearly. No snake, no blood, no firelight, just you, with eyes red from too little sleep, with skin a bit pale from living too long for others, with creases not from age but from holding silence, holding image, holding expectations too tightly. You look into yourself. You see tired, but not hate. You see sadness, but not shame. You reach out and gently touch the mirror. It doesn't break. It stays, reflecting someone who no longer runs from the truth. I'm not perfect, but I'm not wicked. I've lived, and I tried. The wall behind the mirror begins to open, not with a crash, not with fanfare, just lightly like a curtain lifted by wind. You don't see heaven behind it, nor the next level of hell. You see a path paved with soft light, and you know you don't have to do anything more to be worthy of going forward. Your existence is enough. You've passed through a trial where no one condemned you, and because of that, you have no reason left to condemn yourself. Now you step toward the final room before leaving Duat. Not to fight, not to survive, but to do the simplest thing, and also the hardest. To say something you never had the chance to say. You step into the room. The space is smaller, not high, not overwhelming, just the size of an old kitchen where in your childhood you once sat and listened to grown-ups tell stories. There is nothing in the room, no table, no fire, only a chair, meant for you, and a space ahead just wide enough for an unsaid sentence to find a place to land. No one urges you, no timer, no one says hurry up. The room understands. This cannot be rushed. You sit down, hands resting on your thighs, not trembling, just, it's been a long time since you sat in a place that asked nothing of you. You look at the space in front of you, and suddenly the image of someone appears. Not clear, not a ghost, no special lighting, just a feeling, a memory with a heartbeat. Maybe it's a father you never said I miss you to, an ex-lover you left in silence because you didn't know how to say I was wrong, an old friend you cut off for no reason, or a version of yourself from another time still curled up in memory, waiting for someone to come back. You take a breath and speak, not loudly, not perfectly, maybe stammering, maybe choking, but you speak. Maybe it's, I'm sorry, I wish I'd stayed longer. I miss you, I was scared. I wish I'd hugged you one more time. I didn't know how to do better, but I tried. No one replies, no applause, no divine voice from above granting you peace, just a subtle warmth running down your spine, as if someone heard that sentence and didn't reject it. You don't know if they forgave you. You don't know if they still remember, but you said it. And in duat, saying the right thing at the right time, no matter how late, always holds value. The room begins to fade, not disappear, just dim like tears wiped away with an old sleeve. You stand, the door opens, no sound. Beyond it, no more judgment, no more trials. Only a path leading out lit with a softness like a dream, just gentle enough to let you fall asleep without worry. Welcome to the final stretch of this journey, not an ending, but a way out. Because in duat, no one is escorted. You only get to leave when you finally laid down enough weight. You walk out of the whisper room. Your legs no longer shake, but you also don't walk too quickly, because for the first time, you're not running from anything. Ahead is a path, not rough, no challenges, no next checkpoint, just a long straight road soft as sleep after just enough crying. The sky above isn't radiant, it's just bright enough to see where you're going, dark enough that you don't feel ashamed if your eyes are still red. There are no gods standing on either side clapping, no triumphant music playing, just a few gentle memories blooming like grass along the edge, a glance that once calmed your heart, a hand you once held silently, a moment when you smiled not for anyone else, just because you were still breathing. You don't need to carry anything, no lessons, no badge that says survive duat, just you a little lighter, a little truer. And if anything remains after this journey, it's this: I don't have to keep trying to earn forgiveness. I just need to stay with myself and stop abandoning who I am. At the end of the road is a slit of light, not blinding, not glorious, just enough to let you know it's time to sleep. You lie down, not on a bed, just on a layer of mist like wordless arms around you. And duat whispers, not with a voice, but with a feeling you once forgot, that you deserve to be safe. Even if you're doing nothing at all, you close your eyes, not from exhaustion, but because for the first time, you're not afraid to be alone. You've come a long way with me, from the first flicker of light in duat to placing your heart on the scale, to swimming the blood river, to looking at yourself again and saying the thing you never dared speak. No one knows how tired you were just to get here. No one needs to know, because just you was enough. Maybe you're hearing this while drifting off, or curled in a blanket not remembering how far you got. Or maybe you're still awake but your heart is quieter than before. If so, this is not an ending. It's a gentle exit. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you carry, I just want you to know, you are not a shadow in the mist. You are a small light, bright enough for someone to find their way without fear. If today was a heavy day, please exhale softly. If tomorrow feels uncertain, remember the sun will still rise and you are still you, no matter how many forms duat may take. Sleep now. I'll stay a little longer to guard the light inside you from fading too fast. Good night, quiet survivor of your own soul. Tonight you don't have to be strong. You just need to be here. Opening chapter. After duat where weary souls find their way back to light. You think you've left duat, and yes, you've stepped out. No one held you back. No one asked anything more of you. But there's something that hasn't quite followed you outside yet. You, not your body, but the part of you still curled up in the corner of that old room where you once told yourself, I'm fine. You're walking across a vast plain. No more sand, no more fire. Just soft earth like memory gone brittle, now starting to grow moist again. The sky is pale grey, no rain, no sunlight, just as if the ceiling of the world is slowing its breath for you. Far ahead is something like a house, not clear, not modern, no glass windows, just an old shack built from scraps of memory, a story you once heard as a child, a song your mother used to hum while washing dishes, the way morning light spilled through the curtains at 5 a.m. When the world felt kinder than you remembered. You walk toward it. No one stops you. No one checks your papers. No one measures your worth. You're only asked in the voice of your 9-year-old self, do you need a little rest? You nod. No tears. Just, it's been so long since someone asked you that as a person who needs to rest, not as a character who needs to keep trying. You step inside the house, and there is no one, just you waiting for yourself to come home. You gently push the wooden door, no hinges, just an old wooden panel held up by the hope that someone might come back. The room inside isn't large, nothing special, a slightly frayed rug, a low chair, a pillow placed askew in the corner like someone once hugged it and forgot it there. You step in. The room doesn't ask you to do anything. It just is like a friend who doesn't speak, doesn't encourage, but never leaves. You sit on the chair. Your back aches. Your shoulders are sore. Your heart no longer clenches, but there's still an emptiness you don't know how to fill. Wind flows through the crack in the door. Not cool, not cold. Just enough to remind you you're still breathing. You look around. No one asks you to do the dishes. No new announcements. No deadlines. No ding from life asking you to keep going. Only a stretch of silence waiting for you to touch it and not shatter. No response. No resentment if you say nothing. You sink into the chair. Not rest to get back to work. Not nap a bit, then finish your to-do list. Just rest. Because you're tired. And you don't need to prove you deserve to be tired. Maybe you'll doze off. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just close your eyes and let your mind think about nothing. And that for you right now might be the kindest kind of miracle. There's no clock on the wall. Just a faint line written as if by breath on fogged glass. You don't have to become anyone in this room. You just need to exist. You sit there, not moving, not rushing to grab your journal, not telling yourself, Just try a bit more. No bracing, no pushing. You just sit and let that old chair hold you as if it was made to carry the part of you that's exhausted. Not the impressive part, not the decisive part, but the part you've hidden, the part that no longer wants to try. The room says nothing, but you start to hear more clearly. The sound of your own breath, not shallow, not hurried. The beat of your heart, not excited, not panicked, just beating. The silence, not frightening, but soft, like the sound of a blanket being pulled over your chest on a small, rainy night. You look around. There's a cup slightly off-center on the table. No tea, no coffee, just a bit of warm water. Someone prepared it. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was the part of you you always left behind in the race. You take a sip. It's not especially tasty, not inspiring, but you don't need that now. You just need something that doesn't ask you to feel anything. A wave of sleep comes light as breeze brushing your eyelids. Not the kind of sleep that comes from collapse, but the gentle kind, like someone stroking your back without asking questions. You lean your head against the back of the chair, eyes closed. Your body doesn't stretch straight. It just drops like a thin blanket falling to the floor with no one rushing to pick it up. On the ceiling, you see pale light shifting. No shapes, just the kind of light that belongs to a day where no one needs you to become anything. A day that only asks you to still be here. You might sleep, or not. You might leave this room, or stay a bit longer, because the door is never locked. You sit there, not moving, not rushing to grab your journal, not telling yourself, just try a bit more. No bracing, no pushing. You just sit and let that old chair hold you as if it was made to carry the part of you that's exhausted. Not the impressive part, not the decisive part, but the part you've hidden, the part that no longer wants to try. The room says nothing, but you start to hear more clearly. The sound of your own breath, not shallow, not hurried. The beat of your heart, not excited, not panicked, just beating. The silence, not frightening, but soft, like the sound of a blanket being pulled over your chest on a small rainy night. You look around. There's a cup slightly off-center on the table. No tea, no coffee, just a bit of warm water. Someone prepared it. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was the part of you you always left behind in the race. You take a sip. It's not especially tasty, not inspiring, but you don't need that now. You just need something that doesn't ask you to feel anything. A wave of sleep comes light as breeze brushing your eyelids. Not the kind of sleep that comes from collapse, but the gentle kind, like someone stroking your back without asking questions. You lean your head against the back of the chair, eyes closed. Your body doesn't stretch straight. It just drops like a thin blanket falling to the floor with no one rushing to pick it up. On the ceiling, you see pale light shifting. No shapes, just the kind of light that belongs to a day where no one needs you to become anything. A day that only asks you to still be here. You might sleep, or not. You might leave this room, or stay a bit longer, because the door is never locked. You've stayed long enough in this room that never asked you to act. And strangely, once you stopped trying, the parts of you you thought were lost began to knock again. You open your eyes, not because someone woke you, not because of an alarm, just because you feel something is waiting for you. You leave the old chair, step out of the nameless room, and find a quiet hallway stretching ahead like a memory not yet reached. No lights, only a faint glow seeping out from cracks in the wall. From inside them, a few sounds fall soft as breath. You lean in listening. I used to love drawing. I once believed I'd write a book. I used to talk to the flowers on the windowsill. I dreamed of becoming someone who didn't need to hide. You pause. No one asks you to remember these things. You were the one who chose to forget, because life pulled you away, because someone called you too dreamy, because you once loved the wrong person and thought your love was some kind of error in the system. The wall to your right cracks a little more. A streak of light spills out golden warm like the color of a summer when you once felt safe. You step closer. From within, a small hand reaches out. No demand, no tugging, just an offer like a beckoning gesture from your 10-year-old self. If no one's going to laugh at you now, would you like to draw the purple cat you once imagined? You don't answer. Just gently touch the hand, and you realize it never really left. It had just been sitting quietly waiting for the day you stopped trying so hard to be reasonable. The whole hallway starts glowing brighter, not from bulbs, but because the old fragments of life are breathing again. Sentences beginning with I want to, if I could, I like, I wish, start showing up, not to push you to restart your life, but to remind you that you once truly lived. You keep walking, and for the first time it doesn't feel like starting over from zero, just continuing from where you were cut off. At the end of the hallway is a small room, nothing written on the door, just a shaky piece of chalk writing, "The room of things never finished." You arrive at the end of the hallway, where things once left unfinished don't blame you for forgetting. They simply ask if no one is asking you to finish us now. Would you like to sit with us for a little while? You push open the door with the words, "The room of things never finished." It opens gently, no creak, no dramatic fog rolling out to scare you, just warm air. Like stepping into an attic from childhood, where people stored everything marked, "I'll get to it later," and then never did. The room has no altar for dreams, no spotlight for ambition, just an unfinished music sheet stopping at a single F note, a half-drawn painting of a place you never dared to go, a manuscript folder labeled Book Idea, 80% empty, but the 20% that remains is still alive. On the floor are tiny models, not toys, but versions of the lives you once imagined. One lived near the edge of a forest, raising cats and baking. One taught kids in a distant village. One didn't do much, just opened a warm little library in a place no one really reads books. You walk past each self. No judging, no laughing, no saying you were delusional. You just sit down and softly say, "I'm sorry for leaving you behind." Not because you weren't worthy, but because I forgot I also deserve a life that doesn't have to be perfect. From the corner of the room, a drawer gently slides open. No sound, no blinding light, just revealing a small notebook. On the cover, things no one praised but still made me feel alive. Inside it reads, "Making a cup of tea exactly the way I like. Sitting and breathing for 7 minutes without guilt. Being seen by someone who didn't ask me to be better." You read each line, and your heart warms not from inspiration, but because you found pieces that never needed to be finished to still be worthy. No one asks you to finish the music. No one urges you to complete the book, but those old dreams look at you with eyes full of quiet gratitude, because you came back, even if just to sit a while. Even if you don't do anything at all, you stand, not to start again, but because you've stayed long enough to know unfinished doesn't mean unworthy. The door behind you remains open, and ahead is a new path with a line barely visible in the golden light. Not everything must be great. Some things just need to be lived. You step into an almost empty room. No paintings on the wall, no chairs, just a shelf, very long, very low, and covered in dust. No one cleaned it, no one rearranged it, but every time you take a step, a small item on the shelf glows. You lean down. The first thing you see is an old tissue. Nothing special. Until you remember, it was the tissue you handed to a stranger at the bus stop, the one who was crying but didn't make a sound. You don't remember their face, but the light from that tissue is soft, as if it wasn't used to wipe away tears, but to preserve a gentle moment. You take a few more steps. On the shelf is a single loose button. You pick it up. It reminds you of the time you stayed behind after class to help a little girl sew her school uniform, which she thought she'd have to hide all day. You don't remember her name, but your hands still remember the feeling of the needle brushing skin. You continue. A bottle cap, a folded note, a scrap of paper that says, "Head home early if you're tired, just sleep." You never thought those things mattered. You didn't put them on your resume, didn't mention them in a podcast on how to live well. But here they shine. Not brightly, not dramatically, just enough for your soul to remember you weren't just existing. You were once kind. At the top of the shelf is a small drawer. You open it. Inside is a photograph. The faces aren't clear. You just see someone's hand gently resting on another's shoulder. You don't know who this is. Don't know if you were the one touching or the one being touched. But you remember the feeling that day. Someone needed to know they weren't alone. You close the drawer, not to lock it away, but to keep it. To keep for the day when you once again feel like you haven't done anything big, so you can come back here and hear the tiny things whisper, "We don't have any awards, but we're the ones who kept you warm through the seasons no one noticed." You stand up. On the door of the room is a faintly inked line, barely readable, but you still make it out. Not everything good needs recognition to exist. Some things just need to live in the heart of the one who received them. You are still in that room where there are no plaques, no applause, only things so small you didn't bother to hold on to them. But the truth is, they never left. You stand in front of the shelf one last time, and instead of dusty little items, you see something else. You see a younger version of yourself, less tired, less hidden, waving at you. You smile, no sound, just a curve of the lips, because for the first time in a long time you're smiling not because someone is watching. You don't know where that version of you still lives inside, but now you know they're still here. The door beside the shelf gently opens. No one points you the way. No arrows. Just a small line carved into the wood. You can move on, or you can stay. But if you go, take yourself with you. Don't leave yourself behind again. You walk into a slightly odd room. It's not pretty, not elegant, not the kind of aesthetic, sleep-friendly design. Walls half-painted, a spring-loaded chair that bounces up if someone sits wrong. Creaky wooden floors, not from age, but because they like the attention. In the corner is a table covered in sticky notes. When I accidentally bit into a chili and didn't know it. When the cat missed its step and pretended nothing happened. When I called my boss by my ex's name. You don't know who wrote them. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was anyone who's ever tripped and still laughed. In the center of the room, there's a screen playing clips of you. Not your wins, not your brave comebacks, but you laughing alone at silly things. Laughing at a grandpa on TikTok who dances better than you. Laughing when you wore your shirt inside out and no one noticed. Laughing because a friend sent a meaningless sticker and you replayed it 3 times anyway. No one in the room asks you to cheer up. No one says smile more. Stay positive. No need. Because here, laughter isn't a reaction. It's proof that you're still human. You sit in a chair with one leg shorter than the others. It wobbles slightly, as if to remind you nothing's perfect. But maybe that's where the fun is. You chuckle, softly, not even out loud, but enough to see your face soften. It's been a while. A long while since you saw your face not wearing someone else's role. At the back of the room is a whiteboard with a sentence scrawled in messy handwriting, almost out of ink. But you can read it. You can laugh because you survived. You can laugh because you're ridiculous. You can laugh for no reason at all. Just laugh and don't apologize for it. You leave the springy chair and it lets out a final thump, like a goofy friend waving you off without tears, just saying, "Hey, that was fun. Go laugh some more." You pass by a floating mirror. It's not polished. It doesn't brighten your face. Doesn't make your jaw sharper like a filter. It just reflects someone who just laughed. Not pretending, not cautious, not smiling nicely, just laughing. And you feel strange, because for so long you've been used to laughing to make others less tense, laughing to avoid being asked questions, laughing to cover the fact that you were lost. But this time you're laughing because there's finally a place for real laughter. On the wall, an old speaker plays some soft, forgotten chuckles. Not music, just bits of laughter, like they've been left behind in voice memos. A giggle after someone slipped on a banana peel. A chuckle stifled after misreading Pharaoh as Pharaoh. A kid laughing nervously after mispronouncing majestic. You don't need to know whose laugh it is. Don't need to know if it's clean, meaningful, or inspiring. You just listen, and you know it's like a pair of house slippers, not stylish, but they let you walk without hurting. Before you leave the room, you turn around, not to check if you left your wallet, but to write down something you never thought was worth noting. I laughed today, not to please, not to cover sadness, but because I felt alive. The door opens, no one waiting on the other side, no confetti, just a soft breeze carrying the scent of orange peels and sweaters sun-dried on a line. You walk out, not promising to laugh forever, not forcing yourself to keep the vibe, just whispering to yourself, if I laugh again, let it be for me, not the performance. This room is quiet, not empty, not dark, not trying to heal you with beige walls and spa music, just quiet, like the way your mom would gently pull the blanket over you after you fell asleep, like the hallway light left on when someone comes home late but doesn't forget you're still in your room. In the center of the room is a small bed, no thick mattress, no satin sheets, just a place just big enough for someone who doesn't want to hold it all in anymore. The blanket folded off to the side, the pillow neither high nor low, just tilted the way your neck remembers, even though it's been years since you slept fully. You walk to it. Don't test the bed. Don't check the softness. You just sit, and the ache in your back starts to rise. Not like a pain, but like a long-held sigh your body's been waiting to release for years. On the nightstand, no alarm clock, no sleeping pills, No 10 steps to change your life book. Just a folded piece of paper. On it, written in a tilted hand, if you've forgiven the one who hurt you, then you should forgive the one who quietly endured, which is you. You lie down, not twisting around trying to find the deep sleep pose, not worrying if you snore, not scared someone will think you're lazy for lying down in a world that never slows. You close your eyes, and for the first time sleep comes without strings attached. Above you, the ceiling light dims like a polite afternoon. Not sad, not happy, just enough for you to fall into sleep without guilt. Nitocris, also known as Queen Netakare or Nitikriti, means the soul of Re is divine. She was the daughter of Pepi II and Queen Neith, and claimed to be the sister of Merenre Nemtiemsaf II, the last pharaoh of the 6th dynasty. Without any archaeological records, this queen would be known to us from the Turin canon Manetho and Herodotus. According to Herodotus, she invited the king of Egypt, the one who had killed her brother, to a banquet, and she killed him. Then, to avoid further conspiracies, she committed suicide, possibly by running into a burning room. Ancient Egyptian records from the Ptolemaic period, particularly from Manetho, claim she built the third pyramid at Giza. Some modern historians have suggested that she was in fact a man, while many others believe that Nitikriti, or Netakare, may not have actually existed. It is also possible that Nitikriti and Netakare were two different individuals, and it is very difficult to prove. You are not yet a queen. You never thought you'd sit on the throne. You are just Nitocris, the youngest daughter of an aging king, and of a queen so beautiful no one listened to what she said. You are used to being silent, used to walking behind men with power in their blood and gold in their hands, used to the way light never fully lands on you, and also used to the way people treat you like a flower placed in a hallway just to soften the air. That night the palace hallway is still lit. Torches burn above. The wind is not strong, but you hear something the fire can't soothe. The anxiety in people's footsteps. Something has just happened. Someone has just vanished. You see a white cloth hurriedly wrapped, a hand exposed underneath. You recognize the familiar knuckles, cold, pale, and unresponsive when you call the name. Merenre. No one says the royal brother. No one says has passed. Just a trembling maid holding a lamp and an official walking past you without bowing his head. You sit down, not from sorrow, but because your legs refuse to stand. You don't cry, don't scream, don't ask why, because you know exactly why. Your brother was murdered, or left to die. Same meaning. The court needed a reason for change. Merenre was too gentle, too young, and maybe too trusting of you. You remember the last dinner. He poured tea for you with shaking hands and spoke like telling a story unrelated. If one day you're left with no one beside you, then do something. Don't let them think all you can do is bow your head. You nodded. You thought he was talking about a distant future, about when you are old, about when you marry another man, not about this moment, in the night with torchlight and cool blood. You walk down the hallway. Each stone beneath your feet has witnessed hundreds of deaths, but this time they witness someone beginning to live again. You don't know what you will do. You have no army, no authority, no backing, but in your heart a sentence is beginning to grow louder. If justice does not come by decree, then it will come another way. You place your hand on the stone wall, where as a child you carved your name with a seashell. The letters are still there, crooked, slanted, thin, just like you now. And you whisper, not calling anyone, just saying for yourself, I will not let this pass like just another breeze. That night, Nitocris disappears, not from the palace, but from the ease of being overlooked. A girl who has stayed silent too long has just begun to think about the death of those who deserve to die. You don't remember how long you sat on the cold stone floor, just that the wind in the hallway is no longer wind, but the sneaky glances, the footsteps that don't pause, and the whispers that think you can't hear. She won't do anything. She's just a woman. She's too young. We can control her. You hear every word and record every name. No need for paper. You write them straight into your cold palms. That night you do not sleep. In the old room where you once lit lamps, learning hieroglyphs with your brother, you spread out old papyrus sheets, not to study, but to draw a map. Not a world map, but a map of the faces still living. You begin with the one who sat to the right of the throne during the funeral, but didn't bow deep. The one who ordered the tomb sealed too soon, as if afraid someone might still wake. The one who looked at you as you entered the room and immediately looked away. You have no proof, but you have the instincts of someone who just lost the only thing that kept her believing in people. You write, silent, slow. A killer does not always carry a blade. A traitor does not always turn their back. And the one about to die often doesn't know they're being invited to a feast. You step into the back courtyard. No soldier stops you. They're used to your silence. They don't know that silence has become a quiet cut. You look at the Nile. Tonight the water is high, but you're not afraid of water. You will use water. Tomorrow, people will say you sat among the council of officials, nodding as if accepting the role of a puppet queen. They won't know. Every one of your nods was a blade hidden beneath a veil. You don't argue, don't react, because reaction is what gets people killed early. You simply learn to sit still, like a crack in the wall, and let time hear the ticking from within. In that night's dream, you see Merenre. He doesn't blame you, doesn't cry, just stands beneath the water and says only one thing. If you must kill, do it clean, because justice doesn't need to bleed to be named. You wake up, the sun hasn't risen, the room is still dark, but inside you, the first light has come. It is not warm, it is not gentle, it is sharp as a line of water sliced across stone. And Nitocris, with no power, no army, no magic, has begun to choose her weapon. Not a sword, not a spear, but a banquet. And the deep water no one dares drink. You are Nitocris, the woman once placed on the edge of the world, now sitting right at the heart of a plan for revenge. Not with swords, but with water. No one expected, even fewer feared, because you didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't demand power. You just stayed silent. And in a place like ancient Egypt, where everyone speaks loud to survive, your silence is the scariest thing. A list not written in ink. You write a list of those honored to attend the banquet. Not too many, just enough to lighten your heart. The one who sat to the left of the throne when your brother died. The one who signed the burial papers too early. The one who called you a doll with a crown. No one knows this list exists, because you don't keep it in a drawer, but in your palms, in the wrinkles on your forehead, in every blink that no longer feels harmless. The room underground doesn't smell of wood, but of suspicion you begin to build. Not pyramids, not temples. You build a room, underground, No natural light there, no god statues, only stone, thick, and a pipe connected directly to the flow of the Nile. You don't hire strangers, you choose the mute. Those who lost entire families in riots the court never acknowledged. They don't ask you why, because they saw in your eyes something even the gods ignored. Injustice, and a woman no longer believing enough to forgive. A formal invitation, like a wedding bell. You send the invitations. Formal. Royal protocol followed. A banquet by the Queen, for peace, for a new beginning after the unfortunate death of the king. Sounds right. Sounds harmless. Sounds like you've let it go. And because of that, everyone comes. The day of the banquet. You don't wear white, no mourning clothes. You choose a dark indigo robe, like ash, like riverbed, like a vow sewn with cold thread. You sit at the head of the table. They laugh. They tell stories. They drink wine as if your gaze never existed. You raise your glass, not to toast, but to mark the last moment they're still standing on dry ground. You nod. Just one nod. Small, but deep like a call from beneath the earth. And then, no screams. From beneath their feet, water begins to rise. Not cold, not rushing, just steady. As if the Nile itself wished to attend this feast. As if you didn't summon the water, but merely released the pressure cooker lid of history. They struggle. Call your name, shout, call the gods. But you don't listen. You've heard enough. For too many years. You rise. No tears. No looking back. Just walking away as the room begins turning into a tomb. No one built a tomb for your brother. It's fine. You just built one for all of them. From stone water and your silence. When your hands are clean, but your heart doesn't tremble anymore. You feel no joy, nor regret, just peace. No one sings a victory. No gods descend to declare justice. Only a woman stepping out of a water-filled room, knowing this. Some things are not forgiven, not out of hate, but because, if forgiven, history repeats. You are Nitocris. Tonight is not a banquet, but an indictment served with wine meat and candlelight. Everyone came. Top officials, senior generals, high priests, those who once called you a flower with no scent, and one man sat in the center. That man was once king of Egypt, not by bloodline, not chosen by the gods, but because your brother's blood hadn't dried yet. His name was Sobekotep-Jeru, a temporary pharaoh erected by the council, wealthy, powerful, and carried no dream but power. We need stability, he said when he killed your predecessor. Merenre was too weak. Nitocris is a woman. So they placed the crown on a man late to history, but right on time to fill a gap. You invited him, by name, stamped with royal seal. The red ink letter hadn't dried before the councilmen's backs turned cold. No one dared decline. Who dares refuse a woman they'd just propped up for display? Sobekotep-Jeru came. White robe, golden staff, and a smile thick like wet clay. Our queen. He greeted you with the eyes of a man who thought killing your brother was enough to silence your blood. You smiled, said nothing, didn't shake hands, just pulled out a chair for him, the one facing the water pipe. He sat, ate, laughed, and thought he had won. You raised your glass, a toast to the peace of the land, to the rest of the departed, and to the irreversible being washed clean. When the water started rising, he was the first not to believe his eyes. What is this? This is a peace banquet. You left your chair, not rushing, not trembling. No need to shout, you killed my brother. Because he knew, and you didn't need to say what everyone already knew. When the water reached his waist, he still called you dear Nitocris. When it reached his neck, he called the gods. And when it covered his mouth, he said nothing more. You walked out of the room. Behind you, no longer king of Egypt, just a soul with no tomb, no rites, and no one daring to mention him above a whisper. When the water reached the ceiling, the torches died, and you stood there, watching the water still as a message that needed no reader. He, the one who stole the throne, who signed your brother's death, was dead, not by blade, not by poison, but by your terrifying calm and the Nile's patience. People will ask, did she kill him? You will not answer, because you don't need a statement. You have results. And if anyone dares ask again, you'll simply say, I invited him. He died during dinner. I didn't stop him, but that wasn't the end. You know it well. Killing one man doesn't kill a whole system. You killed the false king, but the system that raised him still breathes, and it won't stay still. There will be whispers. Nitocris went too far. Women shouldn't have done that. She'll be next. You know, you always knew. And so, you didn't wait for them to act. You stepped into an old room once used to store ritual ashes. No one followed. No one dared. You locked the door from the inside, not to be stopped, and not to let anyone rewrite the ending with Nitocris was overthrown. No betrayal, no coup. Only a woman who knew if others wrote her ending, they'd make her small. And she didn't accept that. No screams were heard. No flames were seen. Only that the room never opened again. The next day, the court gathered. One official said, the Queen has disappeared. Another whispered, perhaps she walked into Duat. No one dared write the cause in the chronicles. No one built a statue. Only a crack remained on the stone wall, where her hand once touched, and beneath it carved an unfinished sentence. If I must disappear, then at least remember I did not go in silence. You walk away from the banquet room. Behind you is water. No more cries for help. No more power. No more man called King of Egypt. You don't run. Don't panic. Just walk as if you had rehearsed. As if this ending had been written by you since the first day you stepped into the palace. Because you knew killing the man who killed your brother was never the ending. You see a flickering light at the end of the hall. Not a torch. Not divine fire. Just embers smouldering in a small room forgotten since dynasties ago, once used to burn impure things unfit for burial. And this time, you bring your own body there. No one stops you. No guards. No hand reaches out to ask, where are you going? Because everyone thought your role was done. The small room. No throne. No sacred objects. Just blackened stone and a thin pile of coals burning like memories, about to be scorched one last time. You enter, sit down in the center of the floor, and whisper a single name, Merenre. You don't cry, don't tremble. You just let the fire approach. From the robe you wear, thin wool soaked in fragrant oils, it gives off the scent of candles in the temple and the smell of a farewell no one gets to hear. People will gossip. She took her own life. She was afraid of being killed, so she went first. She went mad. But you know, no one killed me, and no one will rewrite this story for me. The flames rise, not wild, not red, just like the last hot breath of someone silent for too long. You don't scream. Don't call the gods. Don't ask to be remembered. You only want no one to turn you into a symbol, no one to use your name to justify another violence. And so Nitocris, with no statue, no tomb, no official engraving, chose to vanish just like everything she was never allowed to keep whole. The next morning, an official asked, "Where is the Queen?" A servant girl bowed her head, "No one knows." Only that the ash room was still warm and there were small footprints leading in. None came out. No state funeral, no successor, no final line. Only a heavy silence where there could have been a blessing, "Rest in peace." But Nitocris needed no peace. She didn't leave to rest. She left so no one could revise the final chapter. No one could edit the story, and no one could erase the cost of a meaningful death. You don't scream, don't demand, don't force anyone to witness. You just walk from the banquet where a king was just killed toward a room no one dares approach. That room has no name, only a scent, a very familiar one: wet ash, smouldering wood, and a trace of old grease lingering on stone walls. A small room used to burn things no one dares bury. Not offerings, not bodies, but truths too inconvenient to keep. You open the door. No one follows. No guards. No priest. No farewells. You step inside swift without hesitation, as if afraid that if you paused, you'd forgive. And they say maybe. She ran into a burning room. No one knows for sure. No one dares confirm. Only an old maid that night saw a strange light flicker through the crack of the ash door and heard a faint sound like silk brushing across fire. If you must disappear, then do it in a way no one dares rewrite. No body found. No ash remained whole. No canonization. No trumpets. Only a thin wisp of smoke that rose that night not into the sky, but down into the hearts of people, right where justice had long been forgotten. Nitocris was not burned. She was not killed. She walked into the fire after it had been lit, by all the things she was never allowed to speak her whole life. You wake up, no more cloak, no more name, just a thread of existence as thin as smoke, shaped vaguely like a human, yet dissolving piece by piece. You are Nitocris, no longer a queen, no longer an avenger, just someone who chose fire to end a story the world miswrote from its first line. You don't stand, don't walk, you simply drift light as the thought of someone about to forget why they ever existed. Around you, Dua appears, not like hell. No screaming, no blood. Just an endless corridor of black stone where every step is a question that was never asked. The first voice doesn't echo from the ceiling. It speaks straight into your chest. You were not summoned here. You came on your own. You don't argue. No need. Because you know you walked into the fire yourself. Not out of fear of being killed, but because no one else was worthy of touching your story anymore. Before you stands a stone gate, engraved upon it. Only those who dare to end it with their own hand may go on to hear what remains. You carry no heart, no plea, no incantation. Only a memory of a banquet from which no one returned. You pass through no gatekeeper, no test of memory, just rooms. And in each room, a fragment of the soul you left behind to become a worthy queen. First room mirrors that reflect not your face, but the things you once swallowed down. Second room, where words never said to Merenre drift like smoke, and you can only watch, not touch. Third room, a trial without a judge. Just you, watching yourself at 16 in age, when you never believed you could kill to protect what's right. No one calls you sinner. No one calls you queen. No one asks, why did you kill? Do you regret it? Dua doesn't care if you regret. It only asks, are you real? You touch your chest. No heartbeat. Only like a patch of heat still lingering. where the fire passed through but the unspoken still rests. You do not beg for mercy. You do not wish to be remembered. You just want to go on as someone who doesn't need to prove anything, only to look at herself without turning away. Duat opens its path, not because you were right, but because you dared to go all the way, in silence and in fire. You step into the room. There's no throne, no one seated above, just a circle of soft light, and in the center, a stone bench cold like the final shiver before someone sits down to lighten their heart. No one tells you to sit, but you do. Not like someone surrendering, nor like someone victorious. You sit like someone who's walked too far, trying to keep her back straight, and finally gets to bend a little. In front of you there is no scale, no feather of Ma'at, no gates, no judgment, only a wall of faint light within it. Gods step out but without shape. You don't see Anubis, don't see Ra, don't see Osiris, just glances. Rays of light form in shapes like memories from centuries watching you, not to grade you, but to gently place a hand on your shoulder and say, go on. Tell it, and you speak, for the first time. Not as a queen, not as a victim, not as a survivor. You speak like a child who once loved someone so deeply and had that person taken away by another's hands. You speak of the night your brother died, of that silent nod that replaced a farewell, of the eyes of the false king and the way he called you beloved at the banquet, where he drowned with no goodbye. You don't need a god to nod. Don't need them to say, yes, that's right. You just need to speak and not be interrupted. One god steps closer. No face, just old light, dim like your mother's eyes in a forgotten dream. They don't ask, why didn't you forgive? They simply whisper, did you ever feel abandoned? By justice itself. You nod. No tears, just your hands unclenched for the first time. Another god sits beside you, doesn't touch, just sit, like a stranger seeing you tired in a train station at night, not asking anything, just choosing to sit nearby so you're no longer alone. No one asks if you are right or wrong. No one makes you choose a reason. No one delivers a lesson learned. Duat doesn't need lessons. It only keeps truths that the living never let you speak. You rise. No one stops you. No background music. Just a soft voice behind you, clear as the first breath of someone wakened from a very long sleep. You lived, and you tried. That alone is enough to be heard. You continue forward. The room fades, doesn't vanish, doesn't erase. It remains for another soul. And you, for the first time, leave a place carrying nothing but the feeling you were seen and didn't need to prove your worth. You walk down stone steps, lower, lower still, until the wind no longer blows, only cool mist wraps around like arms that never quite embraced. Ahead is a river, not red like blood, not black like night, but clear as a question no one ever answered and no one dares erase. No one's there, no voices call, no music plays, just a stone bench at the riverbank and someone sitting with their back turned. You don't call out, no need, because that person is your brother, the one you couldn't save, not because you didn't want to, but because someone never let you have the chance. You don't run to him, don't throw your arms around him, you simply sit beside. Neither of you looks at the other, no hands touch, because some things don't need gestures just to be side by side, once in silence. The river flows very slowly, as if it too is listening, not wanting to ripple. You look into the water, see yourself, no longer a queen, no longer an avenger, just a little sister wanting to hear a story that was never finished. And your brother speaks, not with words, but with memory echoing inside you like a voice through a cavern. You lived my part for me, even if the way you chose no one dares to name. But I understand. You don't reply, just nod softly. For the first time in the whole journey, you no longer feel the need to explain. He turns to you, no blame in his eyes, no regret, just as if he finally has a place to sit beside his sister without a throne between them. Both stay silent, not because there's nothing to say, but because finally you can sit together without being torn apart by power, by history, by blood. A small boat arrives. No one rows, no voice calls. You stand. Your brother doesn't stop you, doesn't say go, doesn't say stay, just looks at you as if to say, now you can live for yourself. No longer carrying anyone else's dream. You step onto the boat. It drifts off gentle as a forgiveness that never had to be spoken. You don't look back, not because you don't remember, but because you carry enough, not in image, but in peace. You are drifting, no longer on a boat, no longer underwater, just a kind of motion as gentle as a breath that hasn't been released in a long time. No rower, no guiding light, no farewell. Only a narrow path opening slowly as if Duat itself is softening for you at last. No more trial rooms, no more mirrors, no river of blood, no questions. Only a stretch of light like the first sun ray after a long night. And this time you don't flinch, because you've become brave enough to look straight ahead. You walk, feet not touching ground, but landing on small memories buried under the title queen. A lotus your brother once tucked into your hair as a child. A shard of mirror you used to look into before anyone demanded greatness. An old promise unfulfilled but no longer necessary. No one praises you. No one says well done. But you know this is the first time everything inside you is no longer at war. No more anger, no more need to prove. No more who am I, just one breath and one peace not glorious but true. At the end of the path, there is no door, no gate, just a stone bed covered in moss soft as the dust of time, and a pillow already indented, as if it's been waiting for someone to lie down for a very long time. You sit, your back no longer aches, your heart no longer clenches, and your eyes gently close, not from exhaustion, but because for once you're not afraid of being forgotten if you fall asleep. No farewell, no background music, just one final breath, and then a gentle silence as if the world has just exhaled. That's enough. Now sleep. And if someone someday asks, how did Nitocris die? Where did she go? Did she rise to the sky? Just say she passed through water. She passed through fire. She passed through herself. And finally she passed through silence. And that silence is still here, still waiting for someone who needs a place to lie down and hear a whisper. You don't have to answer anymore. You have lived, and you tried. That's enough to rest. You lie down. No rituals, no linen wraps, no singing, only cool stone, and a pillow soft like a sentence no one ever believed. You don't wish to be remembered, nor to be understood, because you know after you're gone people will say more than you ever did, and indeed, they begin to write. Some call you the first queen to walk through fire. Others say you're the ghost of justice buried beneath the earth. Then one day, someone opens the royal scroll and says Nitocris couldn't have been a woman. That name belongs to a man, maybe just a transcription error, or a misread king. And so, they try to strip you from the body you lived in. They analyze, They compare. They measure sentence length like fitting fabric to shoulders, and then declare she may not have existed, or if she did, she was male. You don't get angry. You simply smile softly in the ash, because even after death, they still can't believe a woman could be strong silent and write her own ending without borrowing a man's hand. Maybe you were female, maybe male, maybe both, or maybe nothing at all, but a soul who walked through it all and chose silence as her final language. Whatever it was, you lived, you loved, you paid, and you left. No labels needed, no categories. If anyone asks, was Nitocris a man or a woman? Answer like Duat once whispered, the last person brave enough to walk into fire without bringing a single title. At the end of the road, when Nitocris lay down and her story began to be unraveled, distorted, repackaged like every story that ever belonged to a woman with too much silence in her eyes, you had fallen asleep, not in the sense of no longer breathing, but in the sense of no longer needing to prove your existence the right way. But on the surface, they won't let you rest. A scholar opens an ancient scroll, measures each blurry character on the king list, and confidently says she might have been a man, or just a mistaken copy of the pharaoh Neterkare. Same name doesn't mean same person. Then someone else chimes in. Maybe they were entirely different people, one Neterkar, one Nitocret. But no one has enough evidence. It's hard to tell. And so you, a soul who wrote her own ending, are pulled back into being. A scholarly debate, a footnote, a quotation mark, a gender unclear entry among hundreds of kings etched in stone. You don't roll over, don't rise to protest, because you are no longer a symbol to decode. You are fire that burned, water that rose, shadow that passed, while they still bow before paper, arguing over who is right. They won't know two people in history may have had similar names, but only one dared invite the king of Egypt to the Last Supper, then walk into the burning room with a quiet that no one could extinguish. If someone asks whether you were Nitocret or Neterkare, just whisper like Duat once did, I am no one. But I was everything others were too afraid to admit. And now I am sleeping like someone who no longer needs to prove a thing. You've walked with me for a very long journey, from when Nitocris was just a shadow, no one saw in the stone hallway, to that final feast, where justice wore no armor, just sat drinking with the man who killed her brother. You saw her walk into the fire not to die, but so no one else could write her ending for her. And then you walked with her into Duat, through the mirror room, through whispers, through a trial without a judge, past a brother who didn't need to be named, and across a river where there was no goodbye, only silent acceptance. Maybe you're listening to this while already half asleep, or curled up under a blanket, just like Nitocris once curled her soul just to take a breath without fear. Or maybe you're still awake, because you've gotten too used to staying alert, so used to it. You forgot how to let someone else keep watch over you. If that's the case, then tonight let me be the one to hold that silence for you. No background music, no promises that tomorrow will be better. Just this: you are not a shadow. You are a very small light, but bright enough for someone to find their way without fear. If today was a heavy day, then please exhale gently. And if you're worried about tomorrow, remember, the sun will still shine, and you'll still be you, no matter how many times the world forgets your name.